They said the ground members in Iyana Odo village, the old people swore that earth was not just sand and stone. It was a living thing, breathing, feeling, crying beneath our feet. That is why, till today, nobody can explain why Chief Nnadi chose to build his mansion on that very cursed hill. The hill where no grass grew. The hill where children dare not play. The hill where even goats refused to climb. The villagers warned him, Nnadi, do not build your house there. Chief Nnadi, of course, this land is not empty. They told him, it is angry. It is an angry land. Chief, the bones under there are restless. Chief, not all graves can forgive. But Chief Nnadi was a stubborn man, a proud man, a man whose money had blinded his ears and tried his heart like goat meat on a salad day. He laughed and said, money can buy silence and spirit. In fact, any spirit, let them try me. So he built it. Anyways, a mansion bigger than 5 compounds joined together. White walls that shined like a stolen pills. Tall iron gate that screeched like wounded animals. When they opened, floors so polished you could see your own shameful reflection. People came from far villages to look. They shook their heads and whispered, something will happen. But anyway, this place is beautiful. It looks like a heaven. This is not normal. But what could they do? Who dare fight a man whose wallet is heavier than the king's crown? For a while, the mansion stood proud, so proud that it became the envy of everyone. Parties were thrown. Musicians sang until their throats cracked. Big men with fat bellies laughed under the wind verandas. Chief Nnadi smiled and drank palm wine sweet as honey, thinking he had defeated the past. Is it possible? Follow me. But the ground does not forget. The ground does not forgive. And so, on a night when the moon was hiding and the owls cried like mourning mothers, the first whispers came softly, like breath of a dying man. Give us back. What do you mean? Our home. Tell me, if you had a voice under your feet, would you sleep again? Would you dare laugh inside a house like that, where the ground itself was mourning? Chief Nnadi thought it was just the wind. Poor man, poor foolish man. The second sign came during the naming ceremony of his grandson. The house was filled with laughter, singing, and the hot smells of fried plantain. Even the king himself was there, his robe sweeping the polished floors. At exactly midnight, as they poured libations to the ancestors, a strange thing happened. The ground shook once, then twice. Not like the gentle trembling of thunder. No, it was a deep, angry shaking, as if hundreds fists were punching the floor from beneath it. The drum stopped. The singers' mouths froze mid-song. The guests stared at each other with wide, questioning eyes. Then, in front of everyone, the big mirror in the sitting room cracked from top to bottom with a sound that could tear a soul in two. It cracked straight like a path, leading from the mirrors to the floor, and from the floor to the feet of Chief Nnadi himself. Women screamed, children cried. Even the king stood up, dropping his kola nuts. Was it earthquake? No. Was it bad luck? Worse. It was a warning. A loud, ugly warning. The oldest woman in the village, Mama Oyinda, who had not left her hut in 10 years, spoke from the doorway. When mirrors break at midnight, it is not the living that want to be seen. It is the forgotten. Chief Nnadi, sweating like a goat meat in pepper soup, shouting, "Who invited this winch? Who invited you, winch? Throw her out," he shouted. But deep inside his chest, something cold and small was growing. Fear. He laughed to cover it, loud and shaky. "Is this what you call a curse? Small mirror breaking? You people will not shame me." But the villagers knew. They knew what the chief refused to admit. They lowered their eyes. They packed their gift quickly. They left their plate of jollof rice half eaten. Because what? Who wants to dine with the dead? Now tell me, if your heart shook and the mirror cracked by itself, would you sit back and say it's ordinary? Won't you run for your life? Would you pour yourself more wine and pretend? Or would you run for your life? It was on the seventh night that the real horror came. The night even brave hunters refused to step outside. The chief had hired men to dig a swimming pool behind the mansion. He wanted a pool so grand that Lagos big men would envy him. They started digging early in the morning. By afternoon, the shovels hit something hard, so hard that it almost broke their shovels. At first, they thought it was a stone. They cleared the earth and froze bones, dozens of them, long, broken, yellowed bones stacked together like firewood, and skulls grinning up at them with empty crow eyes. The workers threw down their tools and ran for their life. Some barefoot, some crying, some swearing never to return. News spread faster than Harmattan fire. The ground is vomiting the dead. Ha! The ancestors are awake. Who wake them up for crying out loud? Chief Nnadi, the stubborn one, has opened the door to the other side. By nightfall, nobody, not even the chief's own family, wanted to stay in that house. Even the houseboy packed his things and ran back to his village that night barefooted. Chief Nnadi, desperate and angry, paid a powerful herbalist from Ibadan to come cleanse the place. The herbalist arrived with cowries, shells, roasted blood, and chants that made even the walls shiver. But as he tried to perform the cleansing, a strong wind, like a warning, very heavy, bitter and smelling of rot, blew out every lamp in the mansion. Darkness swallowed the house like a hungry python. From deep under the ground, the whispers rose again, louder, closer. "You stole our resting place. You laughed at our pain. Now, laugh at your end." Chief Nnadi, proud man that he was, finally fell to his knees. He pleaded, "Please, oh, I am begging. I did not understand when they were telling me." He cried, "I beg, oh, forgive me. Please, I can pay anything." He started speaking. He promised gold, coats, anything, silver, prayers, anything that can settle them. They refused him talking more. But tell me, can a man bribe the dead? Can money buy forgiveness from bones that have been wronged? That night, Chief Nnadi mansion stood quiet. Too quiet, the kind of silence that only the ground understands. And in that silence, if you dare listen closely, you would hear the soft, terrible sound of bones shifting. Bones that were no longer content to stay buried. The mansion changed after that night. It was no longer a house. It became a mouth. A mouth that swallowed laughter. A mouth that chewed joy and spat out only fear. Rooms that once smelled of perfume and cooking now smelled like damp earth and sorrow. Doors that used to swing open with pride now cracked slowly, as if pushed by invisible hands. Curtains moved when no wind was blowing. Chifunade, try to live normally. Try to be a man. Try to forget. Try to laugh once more. But guess what? How do you laugh when your walls whisper your name at night? Nnadi, Nnadi, give back us our land. Give us our dwelling place. Nnadi got scared. How dare you sleep when you hear footsteps in the corridor, but see no feet? Can you sleep in that kind of a place? He brought new workers to finish the pool the next day. They stayed only one day. At sunset, they dropped their tools and left without looking back. One of them, an old man from Ibadan, said, Oga Nnadi, no amount of money can build a swimming pool on top of crying bones. Their tears would drown us before the water will. The chief Nnadi listened, a stubborn man with pride. No, money had built a hard wall around his ears. So he invited a pastor the next day, then an imam, then a babalawo. He sprayed holy water, he buried chants, he burned incense till the walls turned black. But still, the house remained cold, colder than harmattan, colder than a widow's tears. One night, as he walked through the corridor alone, he heard soft giggles, children's giggles, high-pitched one, happy but wrong. So wrong that fear caught him. He followed the sound, heart pounding, palms sweating. It led him to a locked room, a room he swore with his life he never built. The door was old, too old for house just 1 year old. In the same mansion he built? What is this? Tell me, would you open a door that wasn't supposed to exist at all? Would you dare touch a knob that felt warm as if someone just turned it from inside? Chief Nnadi stood there, hand trembling over the handle, sweat rolling down his back, heart thundering like a drum in a burial procession. Finally, I said finally, he turned and ran back to his room like a coward. He locked himself in. He prayed until dawn. But his prayers hit the ceiling and fell back like a dead flies. Because what? When the ground owns your house, prayers are just empty words. Morning did not bring peace. Morning brought new horrors. Cracks began to appear on the walls. Not small cracks, big, jagged walls. Cracks that spread like spider webs, splitting the painting, tearing through the pictures. But that was not the worst part. Inside the cracks, if you looked carefully, you could faces, real faces, eyes that blinked, mouths that whispered, fingers that clawed at the inside of the walls, desperate to come out, longing to come out. One maid saw it first. She dropped the chair's breakfast tray, screaming, "The walls are watching." She fled that same day, leaving her slippers and Bible behind. Chief Nnadi, now thinner, his eyes sunk deep like holes, laughed nervously. Maybe it's the paint. He muttered to himself, maybe I'm just tired. Maybe, maybe when the world follows you with its eyes from room to room, maybe when you hear your name breathing out from the cracks. One evening, after drinking half a bottle of gin, he stood before one of the cracked walls and shouted, "What do you want from me?" The house replied, not with words, with a low humming sound that vibrated through the air, a sound like 1,000 people crying from underground. He clenched his chest. He fell to his knees. Tears rolled down his face. Hot tears. Ashamed tears. I built this house with my sweat. I built this house for my family. What did I do wrong? But tell me, if you build a palace on top of a graveyard Are you still innocent? If you build your happiness on forgotten bones, should you expect peace? Tifnad had built a castle, but he had stolen it from the dead. And the dead were patient. The dead were angry. The dead were. It happened on the third full moon after the digging. The villagers noticed it first. A strange, heavy smell in the air, like burnt yam mixed with something older fouler. A smell that made babies cry in their mother's arms. The chickens refused to leave their pens. Dogs howled all night, staring at him with wide, terrified eyes. And then, without warning, the rain started. But it was not ordinary rain. It was thick, sticky, dark red. It stained the earth like blood. It painted the chief's proud white mansion a deep, ugly crimson. The villagers ran into houses, bolted their doors. The old woman spat into the dust and whispered prayers. The hunters sharpened their cutlasses, but knew even iron would be useless. Inside the mansion, Chief Nnadi watched horrified as the red rain poured from the sky. It harmed his roof. It pounded his windows. It oozed down his walls like fresh wounds. The locked room, the room he never built, burst open with a bang from inside the darkness. Something moved. Shadows, figures, silent and slow, like smoke calling through a broken grave. He turned to run, but the floors were slippery with the red rain that had somehow entered his house. He slipped. He fell hard. He cried out, but his voice was swallowed by the rolling storm inside. And through the crashing rain, through the howling wind, he heard it. The terrible, beautiful sound of 1,000 voices chanting, give us back, give us back, give us back. They were chanting continuously. Can a man unthrone a curse carved into the bones of the earth? Can a mansion survive when its foundation is built on stolen sleep? Chief Nnadi tried to crawl, tried to beg, tried to promise anything on earth, but promises means nothing to bones that have been disturbed. Nothing that night. The villagers say the mansion shook one last time, a loud, angry shoulder, and then silence. A deep silence that swallowed even the crickets. When morning came, the mansion was gone. Only a black, empty field remained, and in the middle of it, a single cracked mirror reflecting nothing but the empty sky. The story is getting darker. Stay tuned with us. If you have not subscribed to this channel, make sure you do that immediately so that you'll be hearing more beautiful stories. Now, remember, the story is getting darker, more intense and emotional. The land where Chief Nnadi's mansion was stood remained empty for months. Empty but never still. The villagers no longer dare go near the place. No one dare speak about it either, but they didn't need to. They could feel it. The strange, oppressive weight in the air, like a warning, like the heavy silence before a storm. And so life went on, but it was different. The world had shifted. The earth had settled into something darker. One evening, a one trader from the north came into the village. He was a strong man, his voice booming like thunder as he told stories of places far away. He was passing through the village when he saw the land, the blackened empty space where the mansion used to be. He stopped in his tracks, his eyes scanning the ground. He stood there for a long time, as if he was listening to something only he could hear. The villagers watched him closely, whispering among themselves, what could this stranger know that they didn't? Finally, the man spoke, his voice trembling as if the weight of his words had been held back too long. This place is not empty, it is hollow. Some of the villagers, the old ones, knew what he meant. They had heard stories as children. They had seen the fear in their elders' eyes. They had felt the earth whispering beneath them at night. But the trader wasn't done. I've traveled many lands. I have seen forests burn and rivers dry. But I've never seen a place so dead. He paused. The earth here, it is hungry, starving. It wants more. Now the villagers stared at him, confused. Hungry? For what? He looked down at the ground beneath his feet, as if it were speaking to him. There is something underneath, something that wants to be fed, something that was awakened when that house was built on its bones. His voice dropped lower, and now, it will never sleep again. The trader's word hung in the air like a curse. They sat heavily on the hearts of the villagers. What was he saying? Was it possible that the mansion had disturbed something that could not be ignored? Something that even the earth could not keep hidden? The thoughts glued at them, but they didn't speak it loud. They couldn't. The old woman prayed more now. They tied charms to their children's arms and wore beads made of cowrie shells. They gathered in small groups to chant and to whisper secrets that had been passed down for generations. But the hunger beneath the ground had no mercy. The whispers were only the beginning. A week after the trader left, strange things began to happen again. It was subtle at first. A missing animal here, a broken tool there, things people didn't even think twice about. But it wasn't just the animal or tools, it was the people. One by one, they started to change. They be quieter, like the air had sucked all the life out of them. The children didn't laugh anymore. The old men sat for hours staring at the ground as if they were waiting for something. And then it began. A little boy, Jide, went missing. He was playing in the field just beyond the old wall. He had run there laughing, kicking the dirt like he always did. But the evening when the sun dipped below the horizon, Jide did not come home. His mother, a strong woman named Mama Nene, sat for him for hours. She called his name into the darkness, her voice cracking in fear. The villager joined her, but the search was fruitless. It was as though the earth had swallowed him whole. No trace, no footprint, no sound. The next morning, Jide's body was found, but not in place they had searched. He was lying by the old wall, covered in red dirt. His eyes were wide open, staring at nothing. His body was stiff, like he had been turned to stone. And his mouth was open in silence. Scream, but no sound had come. Mama Nene sweat. She tore at her clothes. She fell to her knees, crying out to the heavens, to the gods, to anyone who would listen. But there was no answer. Jide's body was buried in the village cemetery. But no one could shake the feeling that his soul was still missing. The air felt colder after that. The village felt emptier, as if something was draining it slowly, painfully. That same night, Mama Nene dreamt of her son, but it was not a peaceful dream. It was a nightmare. She saw Jide standing by the wall, his hands stretched out as though begging for help. But behind him, shadow of the wall, she saw something darker, a face, a twisted, horrible face with glowing eyes. And then she heard it, a voice, deep and raged, coming from the darkness. We want more. We want more. Mama Nene woke up with a scream caught in her throat. She looked around, but no one was there. No one but the empty walls and the cold wind. The land was hungry. It was awake, and it was not finished with them yet. Days passed, but nothing returned to normal. The earth still felt wrong. The air still felt thick with the taste of death. And now the village was full of whispers. Everywhere they went, they had the same thing. Who will be the next? Fear gripped all the villagers. What would they take from us? What did they want? But the dead weren't asking. They were taken. One evening, as the full moon rose high, a group of villagers gathered in the square. They were talking, exchanging stories of strange occurrences and missed steps. The wind blew through the trees, and for a moment, they all fell silent. Then, an old man who had been sitting quietly for most of the evening stood up. His face was pale, his eyes wide. He looked as though he had seen something beyond human understanding.
So, guys, if you're from this village, what will be your reaction? Follow us, please subscribe to this channel. We're bringing the part 2. Wait for the part 2. The story is unfolding, guys. You cannot afford to miss this story. There are a lot of lessons so that we know how to handle issues. Bye for now.